Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. Welcome back, everyone. Here we go again. Did I scare you? Shouting welcome back. I scared myself. Welcome back, everyone. Here we go again. It's a magical Monday as I record this offering to you, to me, to us, to we. It's a pleasure and honor to be here yet again. Have some things and stuff and whatnot to talk about today. Some questions, some reviews, some personal stories and self-reflection. Let's just dive in, shall we? Let's see here. I'll start off by reading a review on iTunes. You guys know I love my reviews. They help us to reach new people. And this one is by Hummingbird Medicine. And it is titled Petty Tyrants and Your Role in Helping Me. Hi, Brandon. Thank you for this podcast. Carlos Castaneda talks about it, and Ross Heaven touches upon your podcast, has woven the threads of the entire petty tyrant concept into my life. Recently, I've been working in a petty tyrant toxic environment for the past year. For months, I've scorned it and asked for a savior. When you had touched upon concepts of when what you resist, you persist, our higher selves watch us like a movie, and my favorite, we choose this life and obstacles because we wanted to really realize our divinity, I realized that petty tyrants, as Don Juan touches upon, is just a spiritual discipline, and we are so blessed when this occurs to us without deliberately going out to find petty tyrants, because we realize the power within us and raise our own levels of vibrations. Recently, I've come to learn what the reasons are for me having gone through such a wretched but blessed work experience. The first, my spiritual awareness and forbearance has increased tenfold. The second, I realize that no one has power over me unless I give it to them. That fear of our fellow angels, gods, goddesses is not conducive to growth. The third being that I have learned to truly embrace my feminine side, animal medicine snake, as one who is able to transmute all poisons and not let it affect me. The fourth being that I met part of my soul family, not just my petty tyrant as a soul I contracted with to teach me this lesson, but various other members of my soul family I enjoy learning spirituality from in this life, including my soulmate. Petty tyrants are an incredible spiritual workout, and every time I thought of being fearful or angry or upset, I would think of the story of the little soul and the sun and learn to love and forgive every day more to the people than to try to suppress our self-importance. Don Juan and impose superficial power over us. Thank you, Brandon. I'm eternally grateful for the synchronicity of this podcast aligning with my life. Sending love and light. Okay, so a little bit of that was a little tricky to follow. Thank you, Hummingbird Medicine, for reviewing. And I get the gist of this, of course, and it's funny. It's actually perfect for today. What I'm going to talk about. I hadn't even read this before right now, and I had seen a review and just actually I take that back. I read it maybe a week or so ago when it first popped up, but I didn't remember what it was because there's been probably, several reviews since then. Anyway, I love how it is perfectly in tune with what we're going to talk about today. This whole concept of petty tyrants and everything is so synchronistic and well timed. And thank you, Hummingbird Benison, for writing a review. And for any of you who haven't reviewed on iTunes, please do so. It helps us to reach new people. And there's, of course, the other places out there as well. You've got Google Play and any of the other podcast apps. We're pretty much everywhere, and super grateful for those of you who complete the circle of love and take the time to review. It definitely fuels my fire to continue doing what I'm doing here. Moving right along. So before I get into the questions, which are so pertinent to Hummingbird Medicine's review of petty tyrants and the idea of people that challenge us, right? And of course, to add more synchronicity to this day of this topic, right? So this morning I had a message from someone who added me on Facebook, and I get a lot of ads from listeners these days that I don't know, in the default world, let's say, and so I thought this person was that, and turns out it's someone that I talked to 6 years ago, and we had met online and had talked about going on a date, apparently, from sort of piecing everything together. And so this person messages me this morning, and there's an old message from me 6 years ago, kind of being definitely bitchy, if you will, or feisty or agitated. I must have had expectation, right? And so it was just funny for me to see as she writes and then sees that message, and I think she even saw it for the first time. Anyway, so it led to a conversation, and it was funny, and I laughed about it, and I was like, oh, how appropriate. Like, look, obviously I had expectation. At some point, I really, it's very, very vague to me. The name started sounding familiar after a few minutes of talking, but then it kind of got into, well, what are you up to? What have you been doing all this time? And, got talking about, relationships. And of course, I started sharing some of my perspective on relationship and unconventional perspective. And it definitely triggered something with her where there was instantly, whatever dynamic we had all those years ago was instantly back. And there was agitation and, sort of telling me my perspective was selfish and this and that. But here's the thing is I got feisty back. I got defensive back. And we got to be so careful not to be the petty tyrant just because someone doesn't see things our way. And, I can't really speak for them. I can speak for myself. It's like, I ended up getting kind of feisty. Then the person just blocked me again. So it's like, well, that was a great reconnection after 6 years. But I started thinking about it afterwards. I was like, man, I really should have been softer in my delivery of my perspective. Yes, I have very strong opinions and strong beliefs and strong ideas. And when someone is sort of closed-minded about something, it just kind of can set me off. But what am I doing? I'm being a petty tyrant in that moment. So I don't know if this person by any chance would listen. I'm sorry if I got too feisty, and I am really wanting to, and it's such a great and timely experience. And it goes to show you that we all have to just check ourselves all the time. And, like I said, there wasn't anything really bad that happened other than me sort of aggressively challenging what she was saying and back and forth until she just signed off, blocked me and signed off. And it is kind of funny. And then I got thinking, I was like, well, how could I handle that different? How could I understand that this person has a very, closed perspective on their beliefs? And what I'm saying challenges their whole world. And you need to be really sensitive to that. And so I think it's really important when you're dealing with someone else that you don't become the petty tyrant either, right? So yeah, I'm doing my best not to be tyrannical, guys. Sometimes I'm better than others, but it was a great learning experience, and I'm very thankful for that person. And it definitely has caused self-reflection. And of course, like I said, it kind of ties in with this review that I really didn't, synchronistically ties in with this review that I didn't even recall what it was about today that I had queued up. Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life,
I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking The Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back to you.
Anyway, moving right along. Now that we've gotten my tyrannical story out of the way, let's take some questions about other tyrants, shall we? This one is, we have a couple questions one is from Ashley, who wrote in on Facebook and said, "Hey, Brandon, first, I just want to let you know how much I enjoy the podcast. I listen to it every morning and it sets me in the right mindset for the day. As the ego mind tends to still exist, I sometimes need reminders of our true nature so that I can come back home to myself. Thank you for your work in raising the collective consciousness. The question I have is, how do we set boundaries as a spiritual being? I know that what someone else does has nothing to do with us, but how do we practice unconditional love with people who may just not be good for us? Do we need to find acceptance? Do we practice not allowing their actions to bother us? Does this tie back to when you talked about expectations? I'm curious what your thoughts are." Well, first off, I would say setting boundaries is very important. And yeah, I mean, if someone is treating you in a way or their actions are bothersome and it is not in alignment with how you are feeling and what you are and where you're at, you have no obligation to anyone to sort of be a spiritual punching bag, if you will, right? It's very, very important to set those boundaries with people and to understand, that, hey, sometimes we have difference of opinion and that's okay. We're not seeing eye to eye, like my friend this morning, and that's okay. There's no reason to get really argumentative or I've got to prove I'm right or, they've got to prove they're right. It's like just showing respect for people is the most important thing. And if someone is, of course, challenging you and causing you to look at this within yourself, that like for me, for example, this morning, for me, it's like, as soon as I started reflecting on myself, how did this cause me to behave? Well, not super poorly, but not as ideal as I would like either. So it was a great experience and I'm very thankful for it. I'm very thankful for that person and thankful for their perspective. And yes, we're not on the same page. I don't think we're going to start dating or anything. Obviously, we're on very different pages and that's okay. Right? So if you're on different pages with someone, that's okay. Use them as, oftentimes people are helping you to see where you're at, right? It's all that contrast, that difference. But do you have to subject yourself to it? No, absolutely not. And I think that's a very, very important piece. I have another question that's sort of right in line with this by Des, who came in on Facebook as well. It says, Hello, I hope everyone is having a beautiful spring day. So much beauty to be found in the seasons. I'm relatively new to the Positive Head family. I recently started listening to the podcast while driving to work, and it has been the light I've needed to reassess my thinking and energy. The last year of my life has been filled with trials and tribulations and many opportunities to grow. I'm moving back to my home state next month, and in the process, I've become much more mindful and reflective of my actions. There's one issue in my life that I can't seem to button up on my own, and I have difficulty discussing it with people close to me. My roommate of the past 6 months has an autoimmune disease that causes extreme fatigue along with skin infections. It has been my greatest challenge of sharing space with someone. I'm an extremely empathetic person, and when her health problems flared up, I was more than willing to lend a hand. However, as time went by, I noticed her behavior and habits, eating food she's allergic to, drinking alcohol while taking antibiotics, and overall filthy living habits are causing her to remain in this state. Her attitude is one of defeat and self-loathing. The energy in my home is very heavy, and despite my best efforts, I can't escape the feeling of dread when I'm returning home from work trips. I don't know how to address this anymore, as I've tried communicating with her and her family, but there's never positive action of their part after discussion. My empathy has turned to anger, and I've distanced myself from my own home because of it. How do you handle this kind of situation where someone's inability to take the action needed for healing is affecting your home space in such a negative way despite your best efforts? So once again, what are we having here? People who are, irritating each other, that aren't seeing eye to eye, that are seeing things differently. Look, who says that you have to live in a home with someone? Now, I understand there may be circumstances, there could be some reason you're there for some period of time, but ultimately, if the energy is such that there's not a match, there's you're in one place and they're in another. First of all, I would say it's happening. What? To show you contrast, to teach you about yourself, to teach you what you want next, right? It's always showing you. Every challenging situation is showing you, here's what my preferences are. Here's what I desire next for myself. Thank you for helping me to be clear about that. I don't want this, or I don't want that, and I do want this, and I do want that, right? That's what's happening here. But if you continue, once you've gotten that message, and you're still staying in that situation, well, now it's kind of like taking the same test over and over and getting the information, getting the answers you need, and retaking it. You make other plans. Certainly, there's a way you could create a new home space for yourself, right? You're not responsible to this person or anyone for their growth, for anything. They're there. They're acting as a mirror, in a sense, to help you see who you are, where you're at, what you want to do next. Let them go with love. Let them, if self-loathing and defeat is their path, and that's what's serving their own journey now, allow that. You don't have to subject yourself to anything, though. Most of all, have self-respect, and none of us are here to be spiritual punching bags, because we're empathic and we love others and we want to help others. That's great, but you have to have that healthy boundary. You have to stand up for yourself. Gandhi said, self-respect knows no considerations. John Herschel said, self-respect is the cornerstone of all virtues. Anatole France said, timidity is the greatest sin against love. Shakespeare said, this above all, to thine own self be true. Mike D from the Beastie Boys said, be true to yourself and you will never fall. So all of these, take these. These are our mantras to live by. Self-love, betraying yourself, going against your own self is the greatest sin of all. It is, self-love is very important. And people say, don't be selfish, don't be selfish. No, you have to love yourself. You have to respect yourself if you're ever going to be of any value to anyone around you. So, every day you should be looking and saying, what would someone who loves themselves do now? Right? We're always making decisions based out of fear or obligation. And what if instead today you said, what would someone who really loved themselves do right now? What choice would they make? Would they put themselves under more pressure, or would they spend some time going for a walk or meditating or getting out of a situation with love, with respect, right? Don't get argumentative like I did earlier today with this person. No, that's not really a healthy way to deal with it, right? Instead, bring love to it. Bring as much understanding and about their perspective, but at the same time, know where your boundaries are. And it doesn't mean you ever need to subject yourself to any of it, right? So, hope this helps to give some clarity. I know this has all been very helpful for me today. As I always say, we teach best what we most need to learn, and setting boundaries, making sure, I'm very good at making sure people treat me with respect, and I'm pretty darn good at treating others with respect. But man, getting into that argumentative state, certainly you lose. You always lose when you get upset or worked up. So if you can look at that as the path and just taking whatever feedback's happening in your world and looking at it as a feedback loop, as a cue of what you should do next. Don't allow yourself to get into the point where you're super frustrated and angry. Don't go that far. Remove yourself before then. Make other arrangements. The world is full of opportunities to change your situation. What do they say? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Going to the same living situation over and over without making a plan to change it. Right. And then if you have a plan and you have to wait for your lease to be up or what have you, okay, well, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? It takes some of the sting out. Certainly when we know something, we can see the end in sight. So, all right, everyone. Well, this concludes another day of connecting, growing, sharing together. Thank you all for being here, for playing your role, for sharing with friends, family. We continue to reach more and more listeners. And if you haven't shared with people, please do so. You're helping yourself. You're helping the show. We get what we give, right? So that's certainly one of the reasons why I'm doing this show. There are no selfless acts. Ultimately, I know if I help you, I'm helping myself. I win, you win, everyone wins. It's the good way to be selfish. All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to leave you with a track that seems appropriate today. This is from one of my all-time favorites, the Beastie Boys. This is Pass the Mic. Be true to yourself and you will never fall.
It's a musical masterpiece. Hear what I'm dealing with, and that's cool at least. What's running through my mind?